Okay, I think about ready to get going. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I know it's getting late and everyone's kind of getting tired. I'm excited to be here. My name is Casey Liljenquist, and I am the security analyst for Box Elder School District. Today, I kind of want to give you the narrative of what it was like for us to have a security audit, a penetration test, rather. I'd kind of like to go through some of the difficulties we had coming to the decision to do it, and some of the things we faced before the audit, and then move into some things that we went through during, and then finish up with some things that came about as a result. First, I'd like to take a second and give you a little background about how Box Elder School District came to acquire a security analyst position. With how hard it is to find teachers and retain teachers right now, it seems like it's harder and harder for support staff to find the help that they need. And so we really didn't get another position in our IT department until we had a breach. Now, this could have been a lot worse than it was. We got pretty lucky here, but it was enough to finally convey the need to have a security person and to have somebody looking at it full time. So when they were setting up the position, one of the things they were looking at is trying to get an audit to help flesh out the role, to try and give the security analyst a to-do list to get off on the right foot. And it wasn't a requirement, but it was kind of just in the mindset. When I was selected for the position, I had been in the field for 5 years. So not only was it a new position for our district, it was a new position for me as well. So brand new to security. Now it was decided that this new position would go on our networking team. And this team was already overloaded. We'd had years of infrastructure increases, device counts skyrocketing, and no new positions coming in. So these guys were already overloaded. So me coming in, there was an expectation to kind of help take that load off. So day one, as the security analyst, to sit down with the network team, and we kind of put all the different roles up on the board. And we said, okay, you get this one, you get that one. And I ended up with a lot of roles that were going to help take the load off, and kind of fit the role of security, but it wasn't really fulfilling what my job description was. So we start off the first couple months I'm just trying to learn my responsibilities, spending most of my time doing that, and I really don't feel like I'm fulfilling that whole role that we wanted when we got the security analyst position. So when the question comes up to do the audit, we're looking at ourselves, we're going, are we sure we really want to do this? This wasn't required, it was just something that we were putting on ourselves to try and make ourselves better. And some reasons we had, and they were reasons then, but they kind of looking back, they kind of look like excuses now. One of them was money. We had just bought a couple 10 gig capable firewalls. We purchased a new NAS SAN solution, and among other things. So we had already blown through our budget, and then some. So money was a factor. And when we reached out for initial pricing, we were surprised at the cost. Another big factor for us was time. With our to-do list already at the way it was, a new person coming in, we also had there was a 3-man network team, and one of the members of the team was a systems admin, and that systems admin decided to step down. So we also got a new guy, a new systems admin come in the same time that I started. And so that added to the time constraint for sure. 2 of those guys are new. The 2 veterans are now having to take time out to help us kind of get up to speed and get our feet underneath us. In addition to time restraints, projects, we have these new firewalls we got to put in. We got this new NAS SAN solution we got to put in. And that's all taking from the current workload. And we know that this audit's although it's going to be a good thing, it's going to, it's going to add to everybody's to-do list. So we put it off. About 6 months go by. We have a few security incidents. We actually got hit with ransomware a couple times. And we also had an incident where we had a teacher get compromised, and their email account was hitting our email filter, and our filter was misconfigured, so it would hit the filter, and then our filter was sending a spam quarantine message out to everybody she was trying to email. So that was, I think we sent out 10,000 spam quarantine messages, and that effectively got us blacklisted. Well, every time one of these things happens, everybody's looking to me, and I'm new, and I'm just trying to learn these roles that were handed to me, and it's stressful, and the pressure starting to mount. There's a really good metaphor for this that I'd like to share. There's a Greek legend, and there's a tyrant king that he's got a lot of enemies. He's always looking over his back. He's constantly looking over his shoulder because he kind of ruled with an iron fist, and so not too popular. Well, there's a peasant that comes to him, and the peasant's name is Damocles, and Damocles comes to the king, and he looks around at his life. The king has every luxury, and he looks at his life and says, "Man, you've got it really good. It must be good to be king." And the king's kind of annoyed by this quick judgment on his life, and so he agrees to switch places with Damocles. Well, when they do this, the king orders that a sword be hung above the throne by a single horsehair. And so when Damocles sits in the throne, he's filled with fear and anxiety. And the king comes to him, and he's like, "Well, what's wrong?" And Damocles says, "Well, it's this sword. I can't enjoy what's going on around me with this sword hanging over my head." And the king says, well, now you know what it feels like to be me. And I can relate to that because every time one of these security incidents was happening, I felt like there was a sword hanging above my head by a single horsehair, and that every time that happened, I was going to have to brace for the sword to fall. So when the question for the security audit comes up again, it's still staring at me from the to-do list, so we bring it up again, and it's about 6 months down the road. And they put it to me ultimately to decide. They said, "Well, we know everybody's busy, but do you want to do it?" And I said, I said yes, and the reason why is because I did feel like we had pretty good security, but I thought maybe if we have these guys come in to do a pen test, maybe they can show some holes, and if we can fill those holes, maybe we can strengthen that hair a little bit, and kind of increase our security posture. So we go to our business admin and our superintendent, and we present our idea, and they're very supportive, and so they offer to help us with the money. So we do get it funded, and we reach out to the pentesters, and we start planning. Well, it works out that we can't get it set up until another few months, so we're looking at about May. So we're at about almost a year past when I started before we finally plan to do the audit. Now, when we're planning to do the audit, there's a couple options to choose from, and some of the ones that we chose, I just wanted to share with you because I was glad that we did do it this way. One of them was we wanted to keep it a secret, and the reason why we wanted to do that is we didn't want anybody to act like different than they normally would. We wanted to get the clearest, most honest results, and we thought we could do that by not letting anybody know. There were a few people that knew. My boss, the tech director, superintendent, the networking team, and our facilities director knew as well because he was over physical security, and we decided to do the physical security audit as well. Another option that we chose was we chose to put the pen test team inside our firewall. And the reason we did that, we could have either put them inside or outside. There was a couple options to choose from, but the reason we did that is we figured it wasn't a question of if, but when somebody got past the firewall. And we really wanted to see how soft we were on the inside and try and remediate that. So we chose to put the pen test team showed up, and we chose to kind of put them upstairs in the back corner conference room to try and help keep them a secret and make sure nobody recognized them or asked what was going on, or tried to put two and two together about what was going on. So we put them in the conference room upstairs. It was kind of interesting. We put them up there, and they got all their snacks out, and they started doing their thing, turned on the techno music, and so now there's techno music coming out into the hall of the district office. And we gave them a cover story and said, hey, you guys are here for a training, so if anybody asks, you're here for training. But I did have a few people come ask me about what kind of training was actually going on up there. So during the pen test, the guys that were doing the pen test, they let me come in and kind of do a shoulder surf and watch what they were doing. And that was really, it was a cool experience, but it was really interesting to watch. It was a strange feeling to watch your network get hacked. You see a lot of file structures that you are familiar with supporting. You see system names come across that you know and that you understand the significance of the fact that they're poking at those. And then you see people fall for social engineering attempts. It was more personal than I expected it to be. I think it was day 4, and one of the auditors yells out, goes, "Hey Casey, what is this?" And he turned his screen to me, and let me tell you a story before I get into that. One thing with the secret, keeping it a secret, personally for me, it was difficult because I knew, and one of the reasons we wanted to keep it a secret, here's a good example of it. I knew about a text document that I had been meaning to do something about. Now, 2 things about this text document. Number 1, it was the keys to the kingdom. It was everything. We had root passwords to firewalls, servers, everything. Everything was on there. And, we had it on a share that was available to the network team only. But I don't even think, I know our boss didn't have access to it, but I don't think he even knew that it existed. And so back to where I was, day 4, watching these guys do the audit. One of the guys yells, "Hey Casey, what is this?" Turns his screen towards me, and sure enough, there's the text document. And so there you just get this sinking feeling like, oh man. So let's see. There's a lot of negative feelings that come up when we're going through that. But there was also some positive things. It was really neat to watch these guys do what they do, as good as they are at it, to see them use some of these tools like Mimikatz that you've only heard about, and see how powerful they are. And and then another great thing was they allowed me to tag along when they did our physical audit. This was interesting. We found a lot of physical vulnerabilities. When I was going around with them, we found car keys to district vehicles. We found purchasing cards. One office I remember in particular, we come into the closet, or into the office, and there's a locked cabinet. And it's great that the cabinet's locked, but then there's an unlocked drawer below, and inside that unlocked drawer is the key to the cabinet. So they open up that cabinet, and inside is about $1,000 in cash. So, with the ups and downs of the audit, it was really an emotional roller coaster for me. I went home each day feeling emotionally and physically just wiped out. And then, once the audit was over, they told us the results were going to be about a month to come in. So they gave us a few things that we could work on right now, some things that needed immediate attention, and we kind of got to work on those things. We looked at each other, we're like, man, this didn't go as well as we'd hoped. It really was tough, and personally, being the security analyst and the lead over the security team, it was difficult to take and stressful. But as we start working through those suggestions, I start feeling a little better about the whole thing and think, well, maybe this could be a positive experience after all. And then the results came in. So some painful results. Let me read to you what the first finding of, really the first page of the report we got back. Box Elder School District has not defined a formally documented and approved information security program or framework. Box Elder School District has not developed a multiple-year roadmap and strategic plan for information security. The role of information security management currently falls to the IT department, who are not staffed or trained to handle security-related initiatives. So that was hard to take. I took that very personally, and it was more stress. I'm starting to ask myself, do I really want to be in security, and am I going to get fired? I got a family to support. It was a lot of stress during that time. To add to that, during this process, we find out that we're going to get a new technology director. So my boss is leaving. We're also getting a new superintendent because he is going to retire. So me, the network team, everybody else is getting new management above us. And really the first thing that's going to come across their desk is the results of this audit. But it turns out it was exactly what we needed. My new boss came in, and we sat down. We had several discussions, and some of those discussions were difficult. But coming out of that, we instituted a security framework. We came up with a security plan. He knew better where I stood, and I knew where I stood with him, and so we were able to get to work on that. So then when we presented the results to the directors and superintendents with our security framework and plan, things went a lot better, and we got a lot of support coming out of that. So the gains. One of the biggest things we gained from it was seeing that we needed to implement a security framework, and as well as the remediation recommendations. The security framework really gave me clear goals and a clear direction. Before you kind of felt like you were out in the middle of the ocean, not knowing which way to swim, and really brought clarity. We also knew that what we worked on with our security framework was going to bring us the most out of our time and effort. And anything we put into that helps stay that ever-present sword. It was interesting, after the audit, there's this window of hyper security awareness and focus. You get, I saw this with employees that wanted to help, wanted to do everything they could to help. We saw it with money for software that wasn't there before. It was really cool. If you guys are planning on doing an audit, it might not hurt to be aware of this, because when your administration starts coming to you and saying, what do we do to fix this stuff? There might be an opportunity to get some additional help or money at that time. Also, training and support. There wasn't a lot of training and support going on, but my district has offered to send me to training, and also it went to other people in the IT department as well. They're all scheduled for training and for their individual roles as well. Not only was it interesting to see how much support was coming from the district after this, support from outside the district. UEN was a big support. UEN security team offered to have me come up for a week and sit with them and kind of see what their security team did. This was huge for me, because with my role being new and me being new and my role being new, I didn't really have anybody that I could say, well, how has this been done in the past? Or how do I implement this? So being able to go and spend a week with people that were doing my job was invaluable. It was great because they showed me tools they were using and practices that I could then take back to my district and implement. One thing that really stood out for me from the internship was one of the UEN guys took me aside and said, look, we are security analysts. That means we are the fall guys. He said, if something goes wrong, we're to blame. And you kind of know that already, but to get that honesty to come out was important. And not only did he give me the straight truth, but he also showed me a way to deal with that. And one thing he said is, you don't necessarily have to fix the problem, but, if you can't fix the problem, you have to make sure that the responsible party is aware. And there are a couple ways of doing that, and one great example of that was a risk acceptance form. So if there's a political reason or for some reason that you can't get something done, you can go to the person responsible and say, okay, well, we won't do this, but I need you to sign this form to accept that risk, and the power that can bring. So great things coming out of there. Another great thing that UAN provided was they gave me the opportunity to join them on a penetration test. And this was fantastic. I didn't really understand the value of red teaming until I was able to go do this with these guys. It's amazing to try to do what you're trying to protect against. Gives you an insight that you really can't find elsewhere. It's one thing to hear or read about the importance of patching, right? For example, but it's another thing to try and land a vulnerability on a machine that hasn't been patched. It really drives that point home. So it was really great to see the support from not only the district, but the support from the security community as well, and know that we weren't alone in going into our security and coming out of our security audit. So, kind of takeaways, hindsight's 20/20, but if we wouldn't have waited, I probably could have had my role defined a little sooner, could have got a little further down the road with our security goals. If I was to do it again, I would have done it right away. I think we all knew the importance and that it was going to be a good thing. Everybody on the team and my boss and everybody in that decision-making process. But if we'd have known what was going to come out of it, I think it would have been priority number one for everybody. And we want to do it again. And the reason why is that if we can do it, say in a year, I'd really like to see it happen within a year. Because it'll show us that we're staying on track with our goals. We haven't gone astray. We can show the progress we've made so far. Also, keeping security a priority in everybody's mind is important. And, having that deadline can help maintain that sense of urgency to get it done. So, our audit, it was painful. But, the things that we gained from it really made it worth it. And that's all I have. Thank you.